Hello fellow audio nerds, I'm Steph and this is Major Hi-Fi. Just kidding, it's Garrett.
Hello fellow audio nerds, this is Steph, and this is Major Hi-Fi. So today, I have with me the Audeze Mobius, and I'm super psyched to give these headphones a listen because I've been hearing about these since they came out, basically. And today I'm with my friend Garrett here, and Garrett is a gamer. I don't really game that much, so I'm just sort of want his opinion on some of the functionality of these Audeze headphones. I am going to go through sort of the sound profile for music, but then Garrett can take you through his experience with it in terms of gaming. So without further ado, let's get into it. So before we get into the actual functionality, the features, and the sound of the headphones, I just want to first talk about what comes in the box here. You've got this really nice case, zips up, there's compartments for the rest of the stuff that comes inside. There are 3 cables, one USB-A to USB-C cable, one USB-C to USB-C, and then one 3.5mm aux cable for listening, not digitally, just wired audio. Over here, we've got some documentation, the Traveler's Handbook to the Mobius Universe, which is super clever and funny. That's awesome. Got this sort of just like basic card showing kind of the basics of where things are located on the headphones, and then of course this warranty and safety info. There's a nice stand for the Mobius, so you can sort of display these in your place, and the headphones, of course. So the first thing that you want to do when you put the headphones on, before you listen to any music or play any games, is you need to calibrate the HRTF. So basically, the Audeze Mobius can simulate HRTF, which stands for Head-Related Transfer Function. HRTF is basically the concept that your brain can pinpoint where sounds are coming from based on slight time delays between the ears and kind of how sound is bouncing around. So what you'll do first is you'll open the Audeze app, and if you look over on the left-hand side, you'll see some guides for how to measure your head. We've already done this for Garrett, and so we've put in his head measurements here. And then you'll notice Garrett's looking straight ahead, but the head is sort of looking down and all over the place. So Garrett, why don't you go ahead and center the head on the screen? He's doing this by pressing the button on the front of the ear cup on the Mobius while he's looking straight ahead. Be sure not to tilt your head sideways when you do that. Look straight ahead, press the button. And so there he is. You'll see the pitch, yaw, and roll across the top. This is taking samples of Garrett's head movements 1,000 times per second. So it's pretty impressive and it's super accurate. You'll notice across the right-hand side of the app that there are a few different parameters there. There's the 3D parameter. Now you can switch between manual, auto, and off. Now manual is mostly used when you're gaming. Auto is when you're listening to music, or if you're moving around, you know, you're walking around town or you're walking around your house. You see the battery life there of the headphones, the microphone mute and volume control, and then just something saying, yeah, these headphones are on and they're connected to your PC. Across the top of the Audeze app, you'll see sound profiles. Now, if you go to sound profiles, you'll notice that along the left-hand side, there are a few different presets that Audeze has made for us, and there are more coming soon, actually. One is flat, and that's just, you know, if you're mixing or if you just want a totally unvaried sort of frequency response, just listening to the drivers as they are. Default is Audeze's just sort of their own sort of sound profile. I think it gives a little bit of a bass boost. You got footsteps, ballistics, music, racing, RPG. They're also making one soon called Warm. Now, while you're wearing the headphones, if you want to switch between the 3D mode, you'll press and hold the 3D button on the front of the headphones, and it will change which mode you're in. You can also change the EQ presets by pressing the mic volume knob on the ear cups and then scrolling. So if you're in the middle of a game and all of a sudden you feel, you know, it'd be really nice to hear these footsteps a little bit clearer, you can change it straight from the ear cup.
the thing that makes the Mobius particularly interesting, and I'd say its major feature, is just the 3D simulation, like the room simulation, the 3D mode, the manual or automatic 3D mode, which basically is going to give you this like real life like surround sound kind of experience, where you also have the option in the program to slide up or down the amount of like Waves NX reverb or just like room sound, as much as you feel comfortable with, or as much as you feel like it benefits your gaming experience. And one particular example, when Steph and I were playing Resident Evil 7 or the the teaser, what's it called? Something hour. The free Resident Evil 7 teaser. Basically, he was walking through the room, walking through this like spooky house, and by turning up the room ambience slider, it brought him more into the nightmare world that he did not want to be in. I was making him do it for the video, and I feel kind of mean about that, but not that bad. And in that situation, you might want to turn it up, but maybe if you're playing a first-person shooter, having like a room sound isn't really going to benefit you, because you're like outside, like in some trenches in a war zone in like Nazi Germany or something like that. And so you could basically decide how much the Mobius is going to give you that 3D effect. You can't use the Mobius with like consoles or your phone with the full 7.1 surround, but it does do a particularly impressive job making a stereo experience sound 3D. I did play around a bit with the different sound profiles. It's just different equalization settings that are just meant to enhance your game or bring out certain sounds or sound effects that would be in the game you're playing. And I did see a difference when you add, say, like the footsteps setting. You could hear footsteps a little better. It didn't help me at all, because I wasn't playing something where where footsteps really mattered, but you could hear them a lot better. And bullets, I thought adding the extra impact for like firearms and stuff like that wasn't necessarily beneficial for me winning at all or doing well in Paladins, but it did just make it a little bit more exciting, and it did deliver a little bit more of that action. I mostly use these on the flat setting, just because I also am an audiophile, I guess, and I would rather hear the headphones in their most headphone form. And they sound great. The cool thing with these headphones is, like, strip down all the features and all the different things you could do with it, and they're a really good like sounding pair of headphones, and that's gonna help you in a game in general. Just like having a certain amount of audibility, and an amount of detail in a game environment is never a bad thing. But yeah, I mean, I would listen to these, just for music.
And among all the things that the Audeze Mobius can do, one thing that it does really well is play music. And I was really curious about this part of it because, Audeze clearly put so much time and energy and a lot of love into the technical aspects of this headphone. I mean, it's a game-changing headphone. So I was really curious, I hope the sound doesn't suffer, or I hope that, in regard to music, these headphones can be versatile. Well, I got a chance to spend a lot of time with the Mobius over the last week, so I'd like to share my experience with you. Low frequencies were powerful and clear. There seemed to be some emphasis in the subs, which I think a lot of gamers and music lovers, especially bass heads, will enjoy. But there also seemed to be a bit of a bump around 100 Hertz. So for some kick drums, for example, that's like kind of where the fundamental of that drum is, and it really kind of gave it extra power and a little bit of a boost in the mix. As a result, the headphones had a really sturdy, stable ground of low end to kind of rest on, and this was not only revealing for mixes, but also really contributed to the groove. For example, I was listening to this song called I'm Callin' by Tennis, and the kick drum just came through with lots of energy and power, but it had sort of a sense of like roundness to it. Like there was still sort of this sense of warmth to some degree, but it pushed a lot of air. And when the bass guitar is in and the kick drum is in, the amount of energy that is sort of moving down there really makes you want to bob your head along. It's really quite kind of a lot of fun. And I kind of felt this same sort of response even when I was listening at low levels, which I thought was really well done, and just kind of a unique thing, because not all headphones will really let that come through in that way. The middle frequencies are full and come through with an equal balance of clarity and fullness. As a result, mid-range rich instruments like guitars sound really full and just harmonically sort of accurate and complex. And in a general sense, the mid-range feels mostly flat. There is a little bit of a boost in the low mids. There's also a little bit of a boost right at the base of the high mids, and the rest of the high mids kind of feel a little bit tame. For example, when I was listening to the song No Dad by Taylor Hollingsworth, in that song there's this like super fuzzed out electric guitar, and it felt like it was supposed to feel, because you hear the sort of like details of the distortion and the texture there alongside sort of the bigness and the thickness of the guitar. And that song is such a good test for this sort of mid-range balance, because without that sort of thickness you lose the power behind it, but without the detail of the distortion, it loses its kind of spunk. But the headphones made this guitar feel like it was supposed to feel. And interestingly, likewise, the vocal was really interesting, because it sort of felt like relaxed in the mix, and yet there was still this sense of articulation with the words where you could hear what Taylor was saying, and yet it didn't change the level in the mix. So it was sort of like this added articulation, but still sort of like relaxed, and that kind of evened out where the vocal actually sat level-wise compared to everything else, while still being able to hear what he said. The high frequencies felt mostly flat, and its relative level compared to the rest of the frequency spectrum was super natural sounding and easygoing. It wasn't overly boosted, it wasn't ducked back at all. It just kind of felt like it was where it was supposed to be. There's definitely a sense of quickness to the highs, and so there's a sense of clarity there and a sense of energy, especially for cymbals and also just for transient hits in general. There is a slight boost in the upper treble, and this kind of provides a lot of texture and just kind of added detail. For example, when I was listening to the song Stuff by Miles Davis, I noticed that there's really a nice sense of complexity and richness to the cymbals, as well as, you know, kind of this sense of texture to them, like you can kind of sense the metal that's there. And I really noticed this especially in the hi-hat, sort of switching back and forth between this closed and open hi-hat pattern, and as a result, you know, it just kind of felt like thick and chunky and rich and accurate. And additionally, during drum rolls and things, there was really great texture and sort of air, I guess, to those drums. So I did mess around a bit with the 3D emulation. Now, Evan from Audeze recommended doing this in the 3D auto mode, and it was super, super cool. Just a lot of fun to listen to. The feeling that comes across is that you're sort of in the room with the band. You'll notice, like in the app before, that at the bottom part there's sort of the room ambience knob that you can mess around with, and the more you bring that in, the more it feels like you're sort of in this room with the band, which is very interesting. And also, you can sort of turn your head and like the players stand still. So like if there's a trumpet that's, you know, if there's a trumpet over here and I turn my head, now that trumpet seems to come from this ear rather than the other, and that just gives it this really cool liveliness. And it was really especially fun for mixes that play a lot with panning. So for example, I was listening to the song Quizás, Quizás, Quizás by Pink Martini. That song has a lot of different instruments, like the instrumentation on the song is, there's a wide range of things. And something that I found particularly fun was the percussion, because there's like the guiro and the shaker and, you know, the drums of course, and sort of moving your head around and listening to those things was just a blast. It was like super entertaining. Something though that I thought was really interesting and was especially noticeable in this song was that even with the 3D emulation of the room reverb, the China Forbes vocal still can maintain a sense of intimacy, and that to me was the most interesting thing, because that room emulation does create a sense of distance between you and the instruments that are happening, but there's still a sense of like closeness and intimacy, especially with her vocal. Thank you everybody so much for watching. For more videos like this, be sure to subscribe, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. It's definitely a complex headphone, so getting into every little bit is, you know, it's hard to do in one video. But if you have any questions, please be sure to reach out, because I'm happy to answer them. Alright everybody, I will see you next time.